Welcome to our Techy Tuesdays, the technical updates for May. I'm not sure if you've seen me deliver one of these, Calvin. There's always a rider when I do them. In that, I'm delighted there are technical people here because I can read all the text that's on the screen, but I don't necessarily always understand them. So I rely on good people like yourselves and Dave to help me out when I'm not absolutely 100% sure what I'm talking about. But here goes now. So a few reminders from last month. First one about appointment scheduler, that's going, the appointment slots, which was the old version, is going in July. So if you've still got people that are doing the appointment slots, then you need to be warning them they've got to build their own appointment schedules. I don't think they're going to go across. I think they just have to rebuild their own. So you should get information about usage of anyone who uses appointment slots, so you'll know who to tell to get ready for the next one. So that's the first thing. Sensitive admin actions, multi-approval process. If you are lucky enough, like Dave, to be in charge of an enormous organization with hundreds of minions below him, where you can direct them to do all sorts of menial tasks, then thinking about how you go about, sharing these tasks out, and then making sure that there's an approval process for key tasks that have a much larger impact, so someone doesn't accidentally delete the internet. There is one thing that is worse than deleting the internet, of course, which is to send it to the printer. But if there's some of those big admin tasks that you want approval for first, that's a really neat little thing, I think, and that's standard education plus only. So it's definitely one to think about if you've got people to share the burden with there. Allowing users to skip passwords in beta. This is still around. You've got a link to register for this should you want to do this. You need to have some kind of a process to authenticate, of course, still and things, but you will allow them to skip the password should they need to. And there's a link to take you to how to do that, but we covered that last month. I'm kind of flying through these last month ones just so we can get to there. This one, if you are going down the Gemini route and you've added some licenses, there's a tick box in the admin panel where you can say that as soon as stuff becomes available, it'll become available for your staff. So literally very early access to new functionality, and the functionality is piling in. And we were talking earlier in our C-Learning chat about the fact that the private Gmail, versions of Gemini now will actually read PDFs. Not yet on the paid versions of it yet, but it just means that it must be here pretty soon. So watch this space. So that, when you think about the number of PDFs that you would get, all those past papers and things, to be able to do some stuff with that actually would be really, really useful. So to allow them early access to those new functions as and when they arrive. I noticed the other day actually that the Gemini button is in chat, but currently when you click on it, it says this isn't ready yet. I think they've just put the button there, and so it must be imminent, that one. So that'll be interesting to see. But they'll get early access if you tick that option for them. Okay, up to the new stuff now. I don't know if either of you two do use app sheets to build any kind of functionality within your organization, but you can actually action things within app sheet now from a Google form. So when the form is built, some task will kick off in Google in an app sheet. So you'll automatic responses and things and all that kind of stuff, which I know there's extensions you can use for that, but to be able to build your own might actually be really very useful. Available in beta. I'm just reading my notes in case there's anything else. So I think that's if you're not using that particular, I think I went to 2 then, didn't I? Did I jump 2? Oh no, just jump 1. So and I think I'm not put the button on this, but I think this is education plus only. I might have forgot to put the button on this. But more manage iOS apps within the mobile device management within your admin panel, but I'm pretty certain that's education plus only. But you can configure how those behave if you've got iOS devices within your organization. And I'm just checking my notes. I guess it says there. Yeah, okay. I'll put that in twice. There we go. This is an interesting one. I was trying to think whether we would actually have a need for this, whether that might be possible. But you can now customize the home tab for Google Chat apps. It's kind of, I think it's still kind of a developer type task, but you can actually design specific dashboards for yourself. So if you, for example, use ticketing system, it might be that there's a link between the ticketing system and Google Chat, so you can actually develop a newer, better, nicer looking interface that allows you to assign tasks to various people in your organization rather than it just being the bog standard one. So that one might be quite nice to be able to do. Again, it's a developer task, so you've got to have a developer on board to be able to do that for you, but to be able to customize it to your particular needs might be quite a nice thing to be able to do. So you can now also export Gemini data using Takeout, if you've enabled Takeout, which again might be quite easy to start to see if that's something that you're already starting to use. If you're on the fundamentals, you can only do it one user at a time. If you're on any of the paid versions, you can export a group, so you can export up to 100 people all at once, just to do that, look at how those usages are being utilized, whether that actually is a case for you to go big and buy hundreds of licenses rather than the handful you bought to do your trial with. So that's good that you've got that data. Okay, this is a new one as well. Another workspace data protection rule is now available in Gmail, and the three things that you can do are there on the left. So you can either block, quarantine, or just use it for audit rules. So it gives you greater visibility about how those things are being used and what rules you're going to set. And if you remember earlier versions of the admin updates, you can customize the message people get when they break one of your data protection rules. You get to tell them much more specifically what it is that they've done wrong, so that they're better informed, and that when they speak to you about how they overcome the issue they've got, you know what information the message that you're able to customize tells you where you're at. So the fact that you can block the message and they get a message saying this is the policy you violated, and it's, you know, in English rather than in the kind of error code nonsense that you sometimes get that only people like you understand. So that's really quite good that you've got that functionality to tell people how they've done it, but you also get the option to control it better, which is good. This had a nice little GIF, and I loaded it 4 times, and every single time it loaded, it just wouldn't load properly. I don't know what was wrong with the GIF. I just gave up in the end. But you can import, if you are currently using Outlook and you're using Slack as your chat tool, you can now import the data from Slack into Google Chat, but it's a paid for service, and the company is called CloudFuse. So if it's anyone's on still using Outlook and thinks we're going to make that move, and you need to think about importing, and that option will take you, and the link takes you to a page with a link to CloudFuse website where you can look at the prices. I didn't bother to go and look at, but in my mind, I'm thinking it's the kind of thing you might just pay for a one-off just for the import and then turn it off. If you could pay monthly, that's probably what I would do until the import's complete. So, but that's an option should you want it for anyone that uses that. So this is education standard only, education and education plus only. So you've got the option now to add in client-side encryption as a condition for your data loss protection rules, should you want to do that. So you got the option to warn people that you shared externally. You know all this. This is already in place. You can already do that. If you tell users if they're blocked, and again, you've got the option to customize those messages. Don't forget. You can block the ability to download and print. So it's like almost like pulling in the sharing facilities. You've got that in the sharing cog, haven't you? You can already block those things. So, and that's specifically for client-side encrypted documents and things. So you've got that. You can build that down to your.
Paul,
Yeah.
just to add to that one, I think this is more around setting up the rules so that unless client-side encryption is enabled, then DLP will be enforced. So it's the condition around it. So it's allowing us to set up conditions around it so that it will allow or prevent, in this case, people sharing data if they're using a device that doesn't meet those conditions.
Oh, I see. All right. Okay. Okay. Brilliant. Thanks very much for that, Dave.
No problem.
I told you I can read the words, but okay, good. But if you are using encryption, then you've got the option. You've got to set up the encryption. You've got to set up the list of people who are allowed to come into encrypted meets. So I presume somewhere in the admin panel, you're now creating white lists of people that are allowed to join them. But once they've been set up in there, then if Meet is encrypted, then those people are allowed to join, should they want to. Providing it, yeah. So I'll read what it says because I don't understand this thing. Update their IDP KACLS configurations to open up for external participants. So you've got to identify which third-party identifier can join the client-side encrypted meetings. So that's why that's in there. But once, if you're using it, is anyone actually using any of the encryption options?
Certainly not for Google Meet. No, I mean, I think it's something that we could set up to allow that greater security for Google Meet, but I think the industry that we're in, it tends not to be massively important. I don't know if anybody else on the call would disagree with me there, but we're certainly not using it for encrypted Google Meets. So your ID provider setup is already there and available. It's just a matter of ensuring that you're configuring it if you need to, but I certainly wouldn't be turning that on.
Yeah, do I not remember that the encryption is a third-party app, so there's a cost to it anyway? Is that not right?
No, you can have
the case?
It depends on what devices you're using. So Chromebooks are encrypted by standard, and you can encrypt your other devices. But it goes back to similar to the DLP. You can have a condition of access, so you can have context-aware access to apps. So you could turn off access to Google Meet in theory if you weren't using an encrypted device. It's all part of Google's drive to having encryption. What do they call it? In transit and at standstill and at rest. Sorry,
at rest. Yeah,
is the way that they use it. So it's just making sure that all data requires encryption at all times.
All right. Okay. Brilliant. Thanks, Dave. So again, this is one of those. I've never involved myself in app sheets at all, but you've now got the option to organize the way users and policies across the app sheets work, and then you can read those three things for yourself. Again, I'm not quite sure how this works, what it works. I'm not an app sheet user myself. If anyone is, they could maybe pop up and explain why this might be a good thing. You know, any app sheets users in the call?
I'm not a coder, so I can't claim any knowledge on this one.
No. I mean, the note I put at the bottom was actually because it does require you to have bought one of the app sheets versions, Enterprise Standard or Enterprise Plus. So I presume these are paid for services. But it allows you to do those access serves tools to make changes that formula. I'm not going to read it out. You can read it for yourself. But you've got a greater way to manage the organization and access across all the users and policies within app sheets. Here we go. Okay, if you are using live streaming, Google Meet now will support more people if they're suffering from poor quality images. So the first 25,000 people get a normal viewing experience before you actually start to go to the lower level experience for the additional people. I'm not sure that the live streaming is anything schools and colleges have used generally, or if they do, they only use it very, very infrequently. And 25,000 people seems a hell of a lot, doesn't it? So I'm not sure that it will make a significant difference. The only thing that it might make a difference for is the speaker who's presenting will get a better view. So whoever's watching, they'll see that person that bit better. So that might be a good thing, I think. So, but Education Plus only for that one. Okay, so Education Standard, Education Plus, this one, which is the option to block compromised mobile devices. If people are messing with the settings in them and trying to make any modifications, then they'll get this message saying they don't have access, and they'll need to come and speak to you in order to stop that happening. Okay. And you mentioned context aware. I don't know whether that's location, even whether that could be one of the things. It's not in the list there, is it?
Yeah, so you have different things for context-aware access. You can have device-level restrictions, of which this is an example. So the context-aware access will be that you can't access these apps if your device is jailbroken, for example. The theory being that if it's jailbroken, there's no way of verifying the security of that device. Location, geolocation and IP address are other examples of how you can apply context-aware access as well, but that will be a different rule to this one.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Dave. So they've simplified the process of making people go to two-step verification. So it's slightly easier for them to set it up. There's fewer clicks to get them there. Generally, we try and encourage, certainly all your admin people ought to be two-factor authentication. I'm sure that you are. But I would be arguing that all staff should be. Even if you're not there, then if you think that the chances of any member of staff not having at least something sensitive in their emails, that's just that one conversation with an external agency, and they've got some significant sensitive information, plus all the personally identifiable information of the student details and things. So it certainly should all staff, not students. That'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it? But certainly all staff should be two-factor, I would have said. Andy?
Yeah, could I just ask on that? Has anybody got two-step verification enabled for students?
No, but I did see a good example of how it could be used at an event where I think it was ClassLink. We're demonstrating an example of how you can have two-step verification, so they don't have to have a separate device such as a phone or a hardware key. They would be prompted for a password and then prompted to select their image that is known to them from a grid of potentially 30 images. So that actually satisfies two-step verification process without the need for hardware devices or mobile phones. So we haven't rolled that out. I don't know that we will roll it out. I just thought that it was quite a good solution, but obviously it's a paid solution. But it looked like a nice way of getting around that need for hardware, be that a FIDO key or a mobile phone. It's for us. I guess it's more about that access control level. It's what can somebody do if they get access to a student account versus what could they do if they got access to a staff or an administrator account as a worst case scenario. So we haven't turned it on, but there are solutions out there, Andy, that would be, I think, feasible to use if you have the money.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because you got that conflict of no mobile phones in classrooms versus, we need your account to be secure, and how people have worked around that. It's good to know that there are other products available that help you work that within the classroom. And I guess at the end of the day, all this is about damage limitation, isn't it? About, well, what would happen if on a student account versus, being gained access to a staff account. And that's the need that drives the two-step factor or, verification, really.
I think the driver for it will be when it becomes an RPA requirement.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course it would. And we'll wait to watch this space and see whether that changes.
Yeah.
Do you think that's likely? And are people seriously thinking about, how many students have you got to two-factor authenticate, Dave?
Across the trust, we'd have nigh on 6,000 students to set up for that. I don't know that it's likely, but some of the RPA requirements don't make a lot of sense anyway, so it wouldn't surprise me if that becomes one. I've not got any information to suggest that it will. But for example, one of the requirements is that you have to register for police cyber alarm, but you don't have to install it. So there's no sense really in that, is there? So common sense doesn't always equate to policy, unfortunately. So I heard a rumor that it might be coming, but I've not seen any evidence to that end. If it does, then I've dropped a link in the chat for the ClassLink page that explains how it's done. There are other providers available, I'm sure. It was just that I saw ClassLink at an event and was quite impressed with it.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. That's useful to have. If we ever get to that, I doubt whether we will, because of that conflict in use of mobile phones in classrooms, and we'll wait to watch this space and see what happens with. You talked about gestures there about the government saying, well, we're going to ban phones in schools. How do you in reality make that happen? It's a bit similar to the RPA requirements, isn't it, of needing something, but you don't have to have it installed, you just have to have it registered. Doesn't kind of make sense.
No.
I think the DFE guidance was around supporting school leaders who wanted to enforce that policy, wasn't it? That was very much reading between the lines how I took it. There is now official guidance for them to refer to say, hang on a minute, that's not just me saying I don't want phones in my school. This is official DFE guidance.
Yeah, they got your back if you chose to do that as a head. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Enforcing it is still the school's problem, of course.
Yeah. I was in Lithuania a couple of weeks ago, and they basically had a big box at the front of every classroom, and the students arrived and put their phones straight back in there. But they had two-factor, because about 3 or 4 of the kids in the classes I was working in had to verify their account. I presume it's every 30 days or something, is it? I don't know. So they just went, they said, sir, I just need to verify my account. He said, fine. They walked to the front, got the phone, verified it, put the phone back. And so it's quite interesting. I've not seen that before. I thought the process of managing the mobiles in the classroom, literally in a box. And I was asking them afterwards, and the teacher said, yeah, there are some things. I think one teacher used Socrative, the kind of questioning tool. So there's a student app and a teacher app for that. So if we're doing it, we'd say, no, keep hold of your phones. So it's at the teachers, but because actually they do get to use them, I think they feel that it's less of an issue now because they're allowed to use it. You still got that issue that, they could appear to be on Socrative, and they are, but they're also on Magic Kingdom at the same time, aren't they? And actually spotting that and managing that, it becomes tricky, doesn't it? But I don't know what the solution to mobile phones is. It feels like there's a massive amount of computing power in their pockets, and it's a shame not to use it, but it comes up with all the other things. But there we go. I'm going to move on.
Yeah, the only other addition to that is that we're currently trialing CleverGo just for our junior students, so that they're not using a username and a password to log on. They're using a QR code that their teachers have within their class, using a class set of Chromebooks. That's going really well, and with that, I'm sure we'll roll that out to all of our junior students who are using Chromebooks, class set Chromebooks within their classrooms.
Yeah, excellent.
I'll drop the link in for that as well if people are interested.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, thank you very much. That'd be really good. Yeah, absolutely.
And again, there are other providers out there who do some.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're so inclusive, aren't we? Other providers are available. Okay, so if you're using connected sheets, linking to your BigQuery, they've expanded the number of. They announced 50,000 results for pivot tables for pivot tables from BigQuery. It's gone up to 100,000 now, and you can have up to 500,000 for row extracts. So the limits that you can link to are increasing, but there is a 5 million cell limit if you're using those connected sheet links from BigQuery. And again, the link there to take you to that. We've had the functionality, haven't we, in Gmail for quite a while to create calendar events from Gmails. If you book a flight, is the classic one. They actually invite you to add that particular thing to your calendar. So that option's been there for quite some time. The API now starts to distinguish where that calendar event came from, which I think is quite nice for you. So you can actually see that where these things are happening from, in case you've got a troubleshoot or just need to know where these things have come from, which is kind of quite good. You also get that same information as a link in the actual calendar event, which is what the image is. So if it's been made from a calendar event, you'll have a link to the original email. So if you need to go back to that, you can as well, which is kind of quite handy as well. So that's an extension to the APIs in Calendar. You should know, if anyone actually got Gemini accounts, are you now seeing the usage reports appearing in your admin panel? Anyone people not using it? So they should be there. Yeah, go for it.
Not yet, but I do need to speak to Chris at the end of this call about getting some licenses.
Okay. Yeah,
Dave, you've made my day. You've made my day. If I don't get at least one kind of quote in off these calls, I'm disappointed.
It goes without saying that the reports will only be there if you've actually bought a Gemini license, but you do get the reports for both Gemini Education and the Education Premium. So the reports are available for both. And you can see there number of assigned licenses, number of users, and the number of users who are using Gemini over time. So you get it's pretty basic to start with, but you've got other things. So you've got the option to download their logs and things now, and so on and so forth. So that's come earlier. It's just a tiny little thing. I was staring at these two things. It was like, you know, those spot the differences pictures, and I was staring at this for blooming ages the other day. So I can't actually see what the difference is. So if you are someone who's got your directory in Find Fettle and you've got all those information things about people's job descriptions and their mobile phone numbers and who they report to and what buildings they're based in and all that kind of stuff, then when you do look at their cards, then you will see now that they've also got their company added in. And it's the bit that's squared, which one says operations and one says operations, Inc. 42, Inc. 42 being the name of the company. So if these are external cards from your organization, you'll be able to see those company names, assuming the other people at the other end have also got their directory in Find Fettle and have put all that information in. And assuming the Inc. bit might actually be automatic from the domain, but other stuff might not be there. But it does rely. I mean, I think generally it's a mixed picture. I think in schools, some schools are very good at filling in the information in their directory, and others don't particularly see the need. I'm aware that because you've got the stuff to search for people in cloud search. We talk about cloud search a lot on the Education Plus option. If you go in there, if you're a new teacher to an organization, think about Dave's organization, a large organization, and you've been having conversations with a whole range of people because you're new to the organization, to remember what they all are, you can, rather than pestering someone saying, who's this and what do they do? If you've got a directory in place, you can go to cloud search and that will also populate their card and tell you who they are. It's the same card, just in a different location, that's all. So it is worth thinking about it, particularly if you are a large organization. Does this actually allow people to find out information about people that they would need to go and pester someone else for, particularly if they're new? Would be quite useful, I think. So it's definitely worth thinking about it. I don't know if do people fill out the details in the directory generally?
No, it's not needed for us because you can get that information through just basically their email suffix anyway.
All right.
We have some limited information in there, but it's I've never found a use case for it that we've needed to particularly care about it for.
Yeah. Is that a nod of agreement there, Andy, as well? Same for you. You're still muted, Andy.
No, it's just a nod that I'm listening, really. And well, I mean, we use that, but we don't use a lot of the information other than that's created within the Google console. We don't add a lot of additional information within there.
All right.
One of the things that we were looking at putting in recently was line manager information. It's potentially going to be tricky for us to maintain, but it allows us to pull that information through for things like approvals or permissions. One of the tasks that I was given, which was a nice challenge actually, was around creating folders within a shared drive to which the line managers don't have access. So basically for appraisals, and looking at how can we pull in information to give line managers access to individuals' appraisal folders. So a combination of GAM and populating the line manager field within Google should allow us to do that.
Right.
But that's the first one that I've really found the need for in the directory, rather than, and it's not the organization that's referred to here, it's more the line manager field.
Yeah.
Again, it's a play off between your MIS or HR system, isn't it, and duplicating data. Sort of best bang for the buck. But yeah, that sounds a useful addition if you are using things like approvals in docs and you know, drives.
It relies on it being kept up. Yeah, it relies on it being kept up to date, and that's where I suspect it's going to fall down, rather than the ability for us to set it up.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Excellent. Thank you very much for that. So if you are in that kind of mixed environment where you've got both Microsoft and Google, you can now have Excel sheets that are encrypted, and you can view them in Google Sheets. If I'm honest, I didn't even know that wasn't a thing, but you can now, so that's good. And there are size limits, which you can see in the bullet points on the left there, and it's only for Standard and Education Plus. I will copy that into tomorrow's as well, because I just thought it might be useful for you to know, because this encryption stuff is kind of needs you to be set up in the first place, doesn't it? Okay. This misses out a key piece of information, and I was trying to think what it was. Oh, it's about downloads. Okay, so yeah, so I was reading the sentence and trying to work out what it was. I had to go to the link for it to tell me. So this is an audit log that tells you about downloads for any documents in Google Workspace. Apparently it wasn't there before. So when you go to your drive log events, you'll now be able to see that which documents have been downloaded. Might be useful to check every so often, just to alert yourself to the fact that there might well be a DLP rule that might need writing to prevent certain types of files being downloaded, particularly if you're using it in combination with labels and things. You can automatically label, can't you, and set a rule that these types of documents aren't downloadable and things. So useful for you to know what's going on there. Those are the updates for May. I wanted to just spend a moment just talking about Gemini. It is the conversation that we be having most often with a whole range of schools, from the very tiniest right the way to the very largest universities that we deal with, from literally dozens of teachers up to tens of thousands of teachers and tutors and lecturers and things. So it's just thought it might be a moment just to remind you, and I'm going to hand over to Chris because he can fly through these and give you a sense of what they're like. If you want a demonstration of what is currently available in these tools, I'm more than happy to do that. Just reach out to me and let me know. I'll put my email, I'll put my calendar, my 30-minute calendar link and appointment scheduler in the chat if you want to spend the time just for me to show you what it currently does. Just do be aware that it is constantly changing. It's constantly updating all the time. I was saying earlier that the chat button, not the Gemini button, is in chat already. But when you click on it, it just says it doesn't do anything yet. So it's clearly imminently going to, that functionality is going to arrive. PDF reading in the private Gmail accounts, personal Gmail accounts options is now available, and that's happened in the last week. They're constantly updating things all the time, so it's definitely one to be aware of. And it reminds me a bit about the thing that people used to say about technology, that technology won't take over the job of a teacher, but a teacher that doesn't use technology might well find their job being taken over by a teacher that does use technology. And you just replace technology with Gemini, and I think that still stands. I think those that are using it now, it's a bit like a drug. They don't want to give it up because it just saves you a load of time, and the results it produces are getting better and better all the time. So it's definitely one that's worth mentioning. And Chris, if he wants to spend a moment, you can just explain the pricing and how it works.
Yeah, sure, no problem. You know me, I like a price. So yeah, I think the way that I kind of look at this, the version on the left, which is the education version, I would treat in a way as Google for Education Fundamentals. So you're getting some great features in there. It links in with Gmail, Docs, etc. And the one on the right, which is Gemini Education Premium, I would consider that to be more around the sort of Education Plus model. That's the one that's going to get most of the new features pushed. It's the more expensive one of the two, of course. So as we move through the next sort of 12 months, that's the one that I think it's going to develop more than than just the education model. Not a great deal of difference between the two at the moment, but as Paul's mentioned, there is and will be over the next few months. In terms of pricing, yeah, there's a few decent offers at the moment that we can help out with here. If we concentrate on the education one first, the standard annual commit is £201.60. If you're a fundamentals, teaching and learning or standard subscriber, then there's a 20% discount available in the first year, up to sort of the 29th of July. It does extend slightly past that. We can get orders going through sort of early to mid-August. It's just Google's cut-off point is going to be very definite, so it's best for us to get the orders in if we can before the end of July. That brings your cost down to £161.28 or £13.44 a month. If you're on the standard monthly, the rolling flexible monthly, there's no discount available, so that's £20.16 moving forward. The premium, again, if you are, if you're an Education Plus subscriber as well, and you want to go for education, Gemini Education, then there's a 25% discount. So £151.20 or £12.60 a month. So some good discounts there. Moving over to the premium, the standard annual commit 302.40 per year. And again, with this particular one, there's a 20% discount available for fundamentals, teaching and learning and standard. So 24192, or I missed this one off. Bear with me. £20.16 per month. Or always got a calculator there, you notice that, Dave. Or with Education Plus, a 25% discount, so 226.80, £18.90 a month. And the monthly stays at 30.24. The advantage, I guess, with the monthly is it's rolling flexible, so you can drop in and drop out of that as you see fit. But yeah, definitely. I mean, this week, Paul, I'm, I've got my account set up now, Education Premium. I'm using it to do campaigns. I'm using it to reach out to customers around renewals and things like that. It's probably saved me in the last week, probably 3-4 hours, something like that. This week, maybe I've not used it quite so much, maybe an hour. But when you consider that it's, with the discount, sort of less than £20 a month, if you're saving, even if it's an hour a week, you times that up over the month, you're saving 4 hours. Your staff are getting 4 hours at a time back for just under £20. So yeah, I think it's definitely the way things are going as well. I think Jamie, a colleague, said it's going to be something that you would like to have to something that you're going to need, and I think that is definitely the way it's shaping up with AI. So yeah, just a few bits and pieces on prices there, and as Paul says, if anybody wants any little training sessions or anything like that, he's more than happy to jump on a call with you.
For me, I think the thing that is most striking is it'll be about if teachers do get the habit of using it effectively, they will get time back. The classroom delivery might almost be exactly the same, but the member of the staff will be much more relaxed. They'll get the Sunday afternoons back.
Yeah,
it's the well-being of your staff that would benefit, if you like, rather than actual physical time that you can spend elsewhere. I don't think it will quite work like that. But teaching time, I did teach for 20 years. I remember that the pressures to get things done is just so intense. It's just, if you can put your teachers in a better place, then I think that's definitely worth considering.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the little campaigns that I was working on the other week, I mean, literally, I know about, I've done loads of these since I've started working here, and I can do it from scratch, but it'd probably take me, an hour and a half, just putting in a few key pointers around a particular piece of software, or the reasons to renew, or the reasons to sign up. Gives me some great bullet points, gives me details one. I still go in and obviously put my slant on it, so to speak, and just change a few bits, but the core is there, the actual outline of the idea for the email or the campaign or whatever it may be is there. And then it's just a case of me going in and adjusting as I see fit. But yeah, it's great. It's like having an assistant to help me write emails and do little things like that. So yeah, a big advantage for me.
I think, as Dave was alluding to, the message I've received, I know Steve ran through that at the Yorkshire and Humber A&ME last week, talking about it. And when you put it in that context of what it can save you at an hour a week, on my rate of £5 an hour, that pays £20 back a month. Yeah. So if you put it in simple terms as well, what can it save you? It's not necessarily the value in terms of pound, no, it's the value in terms of you get that hour back.
Yeah.
If it's 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours you can make a week, that's then got the value to go and do something else. So it's a bit of I think initially when you see that pricing, you go, oh my goodness, that's really, really expensive. I'm not having any of that. But if you can be brave enough to take 1 or 2 licenses to trial and to work with a group of colleagues, looking at how you use AI within your organization and with your teachers, and try out some, well, you could use it like this, and this is how you could benefit. You can pretty well trade that off in some real value benefits back to the business, you know, that can be quite significant. And anything, you know, practice gets you there. It's about, a lot of it's about confidence, not competence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. £5 an hour. Yeah, absolutely. Theo, have you got a hand raised there, my friend?
Yep, it's £3 an hour elsewhere, Dave. £5 in private.
Yes, I had the hand raised up there. Chris and Paul and everyone. Sorry I was late. As I said before, these meetings always, you know, clashes with my other internal meetings, so it's difficult to get in on time. What I want to ask Paul, you mentioned that the Gemini is already available in chat. I'm assuming that's only if you have a license. It's not available for everyone.
No, yeah. Gemini, you've got the gemini.google.com, the prompt, yeah, and you can use that on a private account or on your education account. And you'll notice at the bottom of that, it will now say that your prompts are not used to train the model. So you've got a kind of better level of security with that, even if you're using it with your education account. But if you want it built into Sheets, Slides, Docs, Mail, Drive, and eventually Chat, and hopefully other things like Google Classroom and things, and yeah, you need to buy a license for it to be integrated fully into Google Workspace. And the button for it in Chat is there, but currently when you click on it, it says it's not available yet. So the button must be there because it's imminently about to arrive, I presume. But I don't precisely know when. They're not very good at sharing the roadmap. Generally, they're quite good at it, actually. They usually say, here's the roadmap, but you can't tell anyone. That's what they normally say. But with this one, they're not really being very specific at all. But it will be coming to other apps, but we just don't know when.
They'll be waiting to see what Microsoft release when. The other benefit, though, if you sign up for Gemini Education Premium, Theo, is that you can get it to attend meetings on your behalf, and it will summarize what's gone on. So eventually, none of us will be in this meeting. We'll just all have our Gemini bots attending for us.
I am actually an avatar. An avatar. An avatar.
I was gonna say, what do you say? Do you send an avatar, or you just send what do you do?
I've not seen it on Gemini yet, but I've seen it from Copilot, and basically it says the person's name and says Copilot wants to join on their behalf. And it just sits there, and I presume it records it at the other end. I presume that's what happens.
Okay. No wonder Musk wants to ban in his workplace then.
Along with
the question I've got is, without Gemini doing it, is that's already one good. So you're sending Gemini to a meeting because you haven't got time to do it. So where do you find the time later? You still
90% of meetings that we attend could have been emails, or couldn't they? Let's face it. So it's just going to summarize what's being said and kind of distill it down to the salient points, I would imagine. But I think the use case for me would be, you know, exactly as Theo's just described. If I've got a clash of meetings, I can send it to one meeting and then join the meeting later on and just read what's been going on, and then I feel as though I'm up to speed on the meeting, rather than feeling, you know, maybe I shouldn't ask that question because it would be silly because Paul's already covered it in an early slide. Speaking of early, I think there was a message for you to go back and cover the first couple.
Yeah, I don't know whether you want to. Yeah, I know you're recording it, Paul. I don't know whether you just want to quickly run through the first 2 or 3 slides. I know there are a few people were a little bit late.
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. One of the things that's, I haven't turned it on today, but Gemini is in Meet, and we've got it in Meet currently. And it does, what it does is it does a summary. I'll start it now because I'm going to go through the slides again. So I'm just turning on Gemini. It takes notes of the meeting. You should see in the top right hand corner of the Gemini button now. There'll probably be nothing there yet, but in a short while you'll start to see a summary of the meet appear in there. And it doesn't just do a transcript, it does summarize. And if I was to say, Dave, can you please send me that email? That will appear in the actions bit at the bottom. You don't need to be very specific. You don't need to say, please make an action for Dave to send me that email. You don't need to do that. You just need to say, ask someone to do a task, and it gets added to the action, so we can test that that's worked this time. So you can, and you'll get access to that because it'll be in the calendar event that you've all been invited to today. So it should be in there. But if not, just let me know and I'll send it to you.
So presumably then, if you use Gemini to attend the meeting, or if you send Gemini to attend the meeting on your behalf, does he interact with attendants, or does he just just there listening? He doesn't respond. He can't answer any questions. Can
Yeah,
he?
no, that feels really scary, doesn't it? You're sending Hal, not Gemini.
Yeah, if you can,
I don't
if you can
think
train Gemini to make a dad joke on my behalf every few minutes, that would be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They found a pencil, didn't they, this week, Dave? Talking of dad jokes, they found a pencil this week that they believe Shakespeare used to write his plays, but they can't work out whether it's a 2B or a not 2B. That's a classic dad joke. You mentioned them. Anyway, here are the updates.
I was looking for the tumbleweed icon, but
I think that's a feature request. So the early slides were just updates from the previous month. So hopefully you've remembered these anyway. Appointment slots is going, and it'll be bumped over to appointment scheduler. So you should have had notification of which people in your organization are using appointment slots. They'll need to be told to review that and go and create their appointment scheduler. They do need to turn the appointment scheduler on in the settings in calendar for it to be appeared. So they might be looking at their create button in calendar and it still says appointment slots. You've got to go into the settings. It's towards the bottom of the settings in Google Calendar where you change it to from appointment slots to appointment scheduler, and then the new scheduler appears. The new scheduler is great. That the link I've just put in there is to my 30-minute scheduler. I've got multiple ones available. There's a home page. If you've got multiple ones, there's a home page where you can see all the schedulers. So you can share that link. But I've just sent you the link to the 30-minute scheduler there in case you want a Google Gemini demo. But it's really, really useful. And you can also, I don't know if you're aware of this, with scheduler, you can actually say, well, Chris and I need to be in a meeting together, so I can create an appointment scheduler that reads both our calendars and only shows the people that are looking at it availability that we've both got in common. So it will read multiple calendars. So it's a great tool. I don't know if it works.
They're really useful. Those I use them in the organisation, for making appointment slots with people who want a bit of help, because they don't always find it easy going on through the calendar, selecting you as another guest and then looking at the availability. It's just really easy for them to click on and see when you're available and book 15 minutes, half an hour with you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
From a user perspective of people selecting those, it's dead easy. I like them. I like the calendar appointments.
Yeah, they're really good. And mine's set to, I think it's a 180 days rolling program. So at any point when they click on it, it's the next 180 days. So it just keeps updating over and over. So people that are already booking time with me for September.
Yeah. So
it's really handy for me. Yeah. So anyway, so that's the appointment schedule.
Yeah. I don't know where we can see. I like the Gemini little note taker at the top there. That's come up now.
Oh, is it good? You can start to see the summary. So you should all be able to see that. At the top right hand corner, there's a little Gemini icon.
Yeah.
And in there, it'll start to see the summary appearing.
File email, and you got the notes as well with that.
If you scroll down to the bottom of it, if you click and open it and scroll down to the bottom, you should see the actions.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's an action that I said for Dave to send me that email. So it's pretty intelligent. Okay, this is about the multi-party. Very go on.
Sorry, Paul, just while you're talking about that then, there's also a link to a Google Doc, which is meeting notes. When I try to access, I don't have access. Is that because the account that I've joined on isn't invited to this meeting? Do others have access to that document without you needing to share it to them? Just as a matter of interest, it's a good test.
I thought that.
What's the sharing on that doc? Have you looked at it?
I'm gonna just have a quick look.
I was going to say I can get access to it.
Right. Are you a co-presenter, Bill?
Yeah, I'm a co-host. Yeah,
co-host. Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
And Andy, can you see it?
No, I've just sent a request in.
Right.
Denied.
So I wonder if there's a setting somewhere in terms of the visibility of that document.
It says it's already shared. It's just still loading, so it's going a bit slow. I can see Chris is on there.
Yeah.
So wait, the document? I haven't got that document.
So yeah, it's hosts only. So
okay.
people that have been hosts only
Right,
in
okay.
the list.
That
Yeah,
explains
and
it.
I can
Yeah.
see your request, and I've just let you in, Andy. So yeah, so it does. I didn't realise that. I don't know if it's because you're outside. No, because there's people that are outside the organisation, but they are editors. They've presented it
It
before.
would be nice if there was some control over that, wouldn't it? Because certain meetings, I would just want to be sharing those notes to everyone in the meeting as a matter of
Yeah.
course. You'd imagine that and it's putting it somewhere with the activities or some of the settings with that might be a nice location for it in future. Don't know.
Yeah, maybe, and it's the same document. Is it the same document as in the notes? No, it's not.
It's picked up your dad jokes anyway, Dave.
Yeah, it was.
Impressed.
The summary is very good, isn't it?
Yeah, excellent. I mean, in reality, you know, the scenario of turning up late to a meeting like I did today, having been able to see that and just catch up very quickly without saying to Paul, "Oh, can you go over that because I was late," and everybody else twiddling their thumbs. That's a really useful, you know, prompt to hit the ground running on something, isn't it? If you are going to be a few minutes late.
Yeah, that works better than the chat, doesn't it, as well? Because if you join the chat,
yeah,
Andy, you can't see what Dave and I have been saying about you 10 minutes earlier because you just joined the chat at that point, don't you? Whereas with this, it'll kind of summarize it from the start, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm aware that I think it's the same document as the notes document in the calendar that you can create automatically anyway, and that you can create when you create a new event. And if that's the case, I'm wondering whether it just requires for the meeting to stop before the sharing of that happens. So I'll check the sharing afterwards, and if not, I'll give the link to Chris to send along with the slide decks as he does normally. So you'll all see how good that is. But you can click the button now, and you should see the start of the summary. Yeah, it updates every couple of minutes, so it shows you the summary inside the Google Meet. It
is the same
Gemini is
document.
taken.
Well, I've just checked. So it's the same one on calendar as it is through Gemini. So
have you got into that one?
No, I've not sent a request, but it's got the same file hash, so it's the same document.
Yeah, but you should get access to that document, shouldn't you? I wonder whether that access
I've got it
happens
now,
when the event closes. I gave you access, Andy, but I've not given Dave access. I wonder whether the permissions of that document changes at the end of the meeting. I thought you always got everyone in the meet got access to that, but unless you're on a different account, you say you're on a different account to the one that's invited in the calendar event.
I think because you had to let me into the meeting, didn't you, at the beginning?
Oh, I did, yeah. But yeah, so it could be that. But
possibly.
Andy came in on his own account, but he had to request it. I'm gonna hope fire at the end of it. I'll wait to see if the permissions of that document changes, and if not, I will share it with everyone so you can actually see the full transcript.
Okay.
The full set of notes that Gemini's taken, so you know.
Sorry for taking that as a tangent. I thought it was a good test so that we could see how it works.
Yeah, I mean, all these things are new, so it's good for us to know as well. That like I say, I'm hoping that it'll be logical and it will just automatically share access at the end of the meet. But let's just wait and see. And if not, I will make sure you get access to it so you can all see what's said in it. Okay, so multi-party approval. I think this is a really good thing for kind of key tasks. So if someone makes significant changes, you can actually then go in and say, well, you know, I need approval from someone else, which I think is good. From education plus an education standard only.
Well, yeah, can you come back in about maybe 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes?
So I'm just going to mute.
Sorry, guys.
I'm sorry, I've just muted you, Theo, because I wanted to carry on while you were talking to your colleague. Okay, I'm going to move on.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave, Paul. I've just got the back phone call.
Okay.
So
all right, no, that's fine. I'm aware that we are at 1 o'clock as well,
and,
so I'm sure other people have to. So I'm going to stop there. I've done the first few ones anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
see
stop
you all
there.
later this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. See you soon, Andy. Take care.
Yeah, well, the recording will be sent on anyway.
Yeah.